The silence that followed his answer was deafening. Sarah stood frozen, her coffee cup suspended halfway to her lips, as the weight of Mike's words settled between them. What had started as casual office banter had unexpectedly revealed the hidden struggles of the quiet single father who worked in her department. If you're touched by this story already, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more heartfelt content that explores the complex realities of modern relationships and parenting. Mike hadn't planned on sharing his truth that morning. For 3 years, he'd managed to keep his personal life separate from his professional one. His colleagues knew he had a daughter, of course, her artwork adorned his cubicle walls, and he occasionally mentioned weekend activities they'd enjoyed together. But the deeper story, the one that explained why he always declined invitations to after-work drinks and why his dating app profiles remained perpetually deactivated, was something he guarded closely. It had been an ordinary Tuesday morning in the office. The marketing team had gathered for their weekly meeting, and as usual, the conversation had drifted from project deadlines to weekend plans. That's when Jessica, the newest member of the team, had innocently asked if anyone had tried the new Italian restaurant downtown, mentioning she'd heard it was a perfect date spot. "Mike, you should take someone there," Sarah had suggested with a friendly smile. "When was the last time you went on a date, anyway?" The question hung in the air as the other team members exchanged glances. Everyone knew Mike was single, but no one had ever directly asked him about his dating life before. Sarah immediately regretted her question, sensing she'd crossed an invisible boundary. "I'm sorry, that was inappropriate of me," she backpedaled. Mike looked up from his notebook, his expression unreadable. "It's okay," he said quietly. "It's been 6 years since my last date." The room fell silent. 6 years was a long time, longer than he'd been at the company, longer than most of his colleagues had known him. "Why won't you date?" Sarah asked, her voice gentle with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. Mike hesitated, then set down his pen. For reasons he couldn't fully explain, he decided it was time to share his story. "My daughter, Emma, is 8 now," he began. "Her mother left when she was 2. She decided parenthood wasn't for her and walked away. No contact, no child support, nothing. Just, gone." He paused, gathering his thoughts. The conference room remained silent, his colleagues listening with rapt attention. The first year was the hardest. Working full-time while caring for a toddler, learning to do her hair, figuring out which foods she would eat, dealing with tantrums and nightmares and all the things parents usually navigate together. "I was constantly exhausted, constantly worried I was failing her." Mike's voice grew stronger as he continued. "When Emma was 4, I tried dating again. Met someone nice, thought maybe we could build something. But 3 months in, I realized something important. Every hour I spent on dates was an hour away from Emma. Every text conversation, every moment spent thinking about this new relationship, it all came at a cost." Sarah leaned forward slightly, her coffee forgotten. "But surely Emma would want you to be happy, to have companionship?" Mike smiled, but there was a sadness behind it. "That's what everyone says. But here's what they don't understand. Emma already lost one parent. The fear in her eyes whenever I leave her with a sitter, the way she clings to me when I drop her at school, she's afraid of losing me too. And I refuse to give her any reason to think my attention or love could be divided." He pulled out his phone, showing a photo of a smiling girl with his same hazel eyes and a gap-toothed grin. "She's only going to be a child once. In 10 years, she'll be heading to college, building her own life. But right now, she needs me, all of me. Not the leftover energy after I've invested in a relationship. Not the divided attention of a father trying to balance a child and a partner." Sarah felt her throat tighten as Mike continued. "The truth is, I'm not just a single dad. I'm Emma's entire world. Her mother chose to leave, but I choose to stay, completely, wholly, without reservation. Maybe that sounds dramatic or like I'm martyring myself, but it's the promise I made to her the night her mother left, when she was too young to understand the words but old enough to feel the abandonment. He took a deep breath. So I don't date because I've made a choice about my priorities. Emma gets my best years, my full attention, my undivided heart. When she's grown and secure and ready to spread her wings, maybe then I'll think about finding someone. But for now, this is my choice, and I make it gladly every single day. The silence that followed was profound. Sarah blinked rapidly, fighting back unexpected tears. She'd known Mike for 3 years as a reliable colleague, a competent project manager, a pleasant but private person. Never had she imagined the depth of sacrifice and love that shaped his daily existence. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "I had no idea." Mike shook his head. "Don't be sorry. It's not a sad story to me. It's just my life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything." The meeting eventually continued, but Sarah couldn't focus. Mike's words had struck a chord that resonated deeply within her. As the team's supervisor, she'd always prided herself on understanding her employees, on creating a supportive work environment. Yet she'd completely missed the profound commitment that defined Mike's life outside the office. After the meeting, Sarah found herself lingering in the conference room, gathering her thoughts. Mike was the last to leave, collecting his notes methodically as always. "Mike," she said as he reached the door. "Thank you for sharing that with us today. I know it wasn't easy." He nodded, a small smile crossing his face. "Actually, it was easier than I expected. Maybe I needed to say it out loud. Would you mind if I asked you something else?" Sarah ventured. When he nodded, she continued, "Don't you ever get lonely?" The question was personal, perhaps too personal coming from his boss, but something about their earlier exchange had shifted the dynamic between them. Mike considered this for a moment. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But loneliness is just one kind of emptiness. The emptiness I'd feel if I knew I wasn't giving Emma everything she needs, that would be unbearable." As he left, Sarah remained seated, his words echoing in her mind. She thought about her own life, the casual dates that led nowhere, the relationships that fizzled out because neither person was willing to fully commit, the constant search for connection that somehow always fell short. Mike's choice wasn't just about sacrifice, it was about clarity of purpose, about knowing exactly what mattered most and organizing his entire life around that knowledge. The following weeks brought subtle changes to the office dynamic. Team members began to include Mike in conversations differently, respecting his time constraints but making efforts to ensure he felt connected to the group. Sarah approved his request for a more flexible schedule that would allow him to attend Emma's school events without using his limited vacation days. One Friday afternoon, Sarah passed by Mike's desk and noticed him intently focused on his computer screen, not on work spreadsheets but on a website showing elaborate birthday cake designs. "Emma's birthday?" she asked. Mike looked up, slightly embarrassed. "Yes, it's next weekend. She wants a space-themed party. I'm trying to figure out how to make a cake that looks like the solar system." Sarah smiled. "My sister runs a bakery. She could probably help you with that." "That's kind of you, but I always make her cake myself. It's our tradition. I'm just not very artistic." Sarah hesitated, then offered, "I used to decorate cakes in college to make extra money. I could give you some tips, if you'd like." The gratitude in Mike's eyes was immediate and genuine. "That would be amazing, actually." What began as a simple offer of help evolved into something more meaningful. Sarah spent an evening at Mike's modest apartment, showing him techniques for working with fondant and food coloring. Emma, initially shy around her father's boss, quickly warmed up when Sarah showed her how to create tiny stars from sugar paste. As the evening progressed, Sarah observed the home Mike had created for his daughter, the organized chaos of a space where every decision revolved around a child's well-being. Homework charts on the refrigerator, a reading nook filled with books, family photos everywhere but none of Emma's mother. A home built entirely on one parent's love and determination. She's remarkable, Sarah told Mike as they cleaned up the kitchen while Emma watched a movie in the living room. You've done an incredible job with her. Mike's smile was tired but proud. She makes it easy. She's resilient in ways I never had to be at her age. And what about you? Sarah asked. Who helps you when things get tough? The question caught him off guard. I manage, he said simply. Everyone needs support, Mike. Even superheroes have sidekicks. He laughed softly. I'm hardly a superhero. Emma might disagree with that assessment. Their conversation was interrupted by Emma calling from the living room, asking if they could all play a board game together. The evening ended with Monopoly and laughter, and as Sarah drove home, she found herself reflecting on the unexpected glimpse into Mike's world. The birthday party was a success, with the solar system cake earning rave reviews from Emma and her friends. Sarah had been surprised to receive an invitation, even more surprised by how much she enjoyed spending time with the other parents and watching the children's excitement over the space-themed games Mike had meticulously planned. As summer approached, a new dynamic began to develop. Sarah found reasons to check in with Mike beyond work matters. Mike began accepting occasional invitations to team lunches, bringing stories about Emma that he previously would have kept private. A friendship formed, cautious at first, then increasingly comfortable. One evening, as they worked late on a presentation, Sarah broached the subject that had been on her mind since that day in the conference room. Do you ever think you might be using Emma as an excuse? She asked carefully. Not that your dedication to her isn't admirable, but sometimes we create narratives that protect us from taking risks. Mike didn't answer immediately, giving the question the consideration it deserved. Maybe, he finally admitted. After Emma's mother left, the pain was substantial. Not just for Emma, but for me too. Trusting someone again, being vulnerable, it's terrifying. So yes, perhaps some of my reluctance is self-protection disguised as parental devotion. He looked at her directly. But that doesn't make my concerns about Emma any less valid. She really does need stability and consistency. She really does worry when I'm not there. I understand that, Sarah said. I'm not suggesting you should suddenly start dating randomly or prioritize relationships over Emma. I just wonder if there might be a middle ground, a way to honor your commitment to her while also allowing yourself some personal happiness. What would that even look like? Mike asked, not defensively but with genuine curiosity. Sarah considered this. Maybe it starts with building a stronger support network. Letting people in, not as potential partners necessarily, but as friends who care about both you and Emma. People who could be part of your lives in a consistent, positive way. The conversation shifted back to work, but the seed had been planted. Over the following months, Mike began making small changes. He accepted help more readily. He allowed Emma to have sleepovers at friends' houses, giving himself occasional evenings of solitude. He joined a single-parent support group that met monthly, finding comfort in sharing experiences with others who understood his challenges. Sarah, meanwhile, found herself increasingly drawn to Mike and Emma's world. What had begun as boss-employee concern evolved into genuine friendship and then, gradually, into something neither of them had anticipated. Their connection grew naturally, built on mutual respect and shared values rather than romantic gestures or traditional dating. 1 year after that fateful conversation in the conference room, Mike and Sarah sat together on his apartment balcony after Emma had gone to bed. The evening was warm, the sky clear enough to see stars despite the city lights. Emma asked me something interesting today, Mike said, his voice quiet in the darkness. What's that? She asked if you were my girlfriend. He turned to gauge Sarah's reaction. Sarah smiled. What did you tell her? I told her that you're my friend, and that you're important to both of us. Good answer. Mike hesitated. But then she said something that really made me think. She said, Dad, I know you don't date because of me, but I think Sarah already feels like part of our family." Sarah's heart quickened. Wise beyond her years, that one. "She is," Mike agreed. "And she's right. You have become part of our family, in a way I never expected anyone could." He reached for her hand, a gesture that felt both monumental and completely natural. "I still believe everything I said that day in the office. Emma will always be my priority. But I've realized something important this past year. Loving her with my whole heart doesn't mean there isn't room to care deeply for someone else too." Sarah interlaced her fingers with his. "I would never want to compete with Emma for your attention or love. That's not what this is about." "I know," Mike said softly. "That's why this feels different. You've never asked me to choose. You've only ever supported both of us. So what are you saying, exactly?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "I'm saying that maybe, after 6 years, I'm ready to go on a date. If you're interested." Sarah smiled. "I think I could be persuaded. But only if Emma approves. She already does. In fact, she has suggestions for where we should go." They both laughed, the sound carrying into the night air. There would be complications ahead, boundaries to navigate, expectations to manage. But in that moment, sitting beneath the stars, they shared something precious, the beginning of a story that honored the past while opening the door to new possibilities. Mike's journey from isolated single father to a man cautiously opening his heart again wasn't about replacing his commitment to Emma. Rather, it was about expanding his understanding of what family could mean, about recognizing that love isn't a finite resource but a renewable one that grows when shared. And Sarah, who had once been moved to tears by Mike's dedication to his daughter, found herself falling in love not despite his priorities but because of them, because the same qualities that made him an exceptional father also made him someone worth building a future with, however unconventional that future might be. Their story reminds us that sometimes the most profound connections come not from seeking romance but from recognizing the value in someone's character, in the choices they make when faced with life's challenges. It teaches us that love doesn't always arrive in expected packages or follow traditional timelines. Sometimes it grows slowly, rooted in friendship and mutual respect, blooming only when the season is right. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We believe in sharing stories that reflect the complex, beautiful reality of modern relationships, stories that acknowledge the challenges while celebrating the resilience of the human spirit and its capacity for love in all its forms.